Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
Well, there was a bit of drama. Well, let's say that, this is 15 minutes of fame. We'll go
sure is.
Run the titles, Jim. There. There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. There.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, producer says we went out.
Good.
I think we got it all out of the way.
All right, good. Glad.
I'm Jim Kerr. Oh, no, we did that part already.
No, we did that part already.
All right. Let's go.
So we're set.
We got a good thing going here. Good start. Let's keep it rolling.
Well, there was a little bit of drama in the lead up to the NHL Entry Draft on Friday, but the Edmonton Oilers wound up doing what most of the fans were hoping for, and what everybody was saying before the day of, Jim.
My goodness.
No kidding.
Were you as nervous as the rest of the city was? Because it was like we were all punked or something. Because after all that speculation about Nail Yakupov, or Niall, however he wants to pronounce,
I think
he said he's cool with Nail.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll go with that.
Okay.
After all the speculation that he was going to be our guy, it's like you're doing a disservice to yourself if you don't take this player. I look on Twitter the day of or the night before, and it's they're probably going to take Ryan Murray. Everyone seems to think they're going to take Ryan Murray. I was like,
what happened?
What? Yeah,
totally.
And then right up to the minutes, the seconds, as Tambellini's up there on the podium, even it's like they're going to take Murray.
Yeah.
What do they do? But it was almost you got to wonder, like, was that just to build up a bit of hype or a bit of like
hype,
controversy or something? Because man. The whole Twitterverse was talking about that the whole day, and everyone at work, everyone's like, "Oh, oh no, what are they doing?"
Yeah.
But thankfully, in the end, we got Mr. Yakupov, best player available. Didn't do anything crazy. Didn't take any risks. We took the best guy that was there, and I think it's the right choice because he seems like a beauty, and he seems, skill set aside, he seems like a kind of a character that'll be fun to have around the Oilers.
Yeah, he seems pretty good, absolutely. And you're right. I woke up, the morning of, and Twitter was completely crazy. It was absolutely nuts. And I was at the Pint watching, and everybody was there. And, that's the same thing. Everybody's just like, what's going on? And as soon as I said Yakupov, the place went absolutely nuts. So I don't know what the reason was, Jim, for that. I don't know if it was some sort of play or ploy by Tambellini, but it was weird. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean they probably batted the idea around, but seems like it just took off.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was like, oh my God, please don't.
Please,
I know you've had that number one pick for a few years now.
Yeah.
Don't do anything crazy.
Don't go crazy. Well, that wasn't the only big story of the night. A day after reportedly turning down a 10-year, $60 million contract extension, Jordan Staal was on the move.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I turn those down fairly regularly.
All the time. No big deal.
Before the Hurricanes made their first-round pick, up comes Mr. Bendtner to a chorus of boos, as usual. But it's less boos when he's got a trade, because people are like, okay. But, he came up. Next thing you know, Stahl's on his way to Carolina. Brandon Sutter's going the other way. Jordan Staal will now suit up alongside his brother Eric, which is kind of cool. They got a younger brother as well in the system. So that's an interesting trade. You turn down that money, you're obviously not staying, and he still has a year before his contract runs out. So they had to think, okay, do we try and trade him at the draft at the deadline next summer or next year, and maybe not get as much for him? Do we risk But I think he came out and said that he wasn't going to sign any extension. Never mind this. How can they afford cap wise? To be paying a third-line center $60 million over 10 years. That's crazy. He probably did them a favor by asking for his way out. But that's a huge story. Also, Mike Ribeiro to the Washington Capitals. That's an intriguing one for me because he's a guy that's got there's questions about his attitude, or there have been, or I don't know whether he's got a good attitude or a bad attitude, but I know that he's the type of player who will try things that other players won't. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But to me, like a guy with that kind of creativity on a team like Washington, that might be a piece that sort of changes things for the Caps, because they're sort of they're almost like purgatory. Like they're a team stacked with talent, but they just can't get to that next. We've brought in, veteran hard players that, maybe that's what they need, a bit of sandpaper. Didn't really work. So maybe this is the change that takes them to just just a notch above where they are right now and makes all the difference. He's a hell of a player, though, Mike Ribeiro. That highlight last year where he took around his back and then clapped it top cheese, that's the kind of stuff, I'd love to have him on my team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both the Stahl trade and the Ribeiro trade were good ones. I really do think Ribeiro is going to fit well in Washington. I think you're going to see something there that's really good. No, I agree. I agree on all that.
I'm interested to see how Stahl fits and how he does with a bit more responsibility.
Well, he's got to be at least a second-line center, right? That was his whole thing. He was a third-line center between arguably the two best centers in the entire league, and he's a pretty darn good player as well. So, he wants to go to some place that he can play. So he's got to be at least a second-line center, and I'm sure he'll find a good fit there for sure. He's a good player. I would have liked to see him in Edmonton Oilers colors, but that was never going to happen. Moving on to some football. Let's just start with a quick mention of the Edmonton Eskimos, who went 0-2 in the preseason and open things up next Saturday against the Argos. Not looking too good at this point.
Yeah, it's tough to know what to expect because the preseason doesn't really give you the kind of gauge you're starving for after a whole offseason. But they didn't look great. The BC Lions look fantastic in their 2 preseason games. But again, it's the preseason, so it's tough to really gauge where they're at. Hopefully the Eskimos can come out flying. They got Ricky Ray and the Argos in town. Big game, potentially. I mean, it's definitely a game where Stephen Giles can win over some fans by coming out and downing the former the former starter here. But I haven't seen enough of Giles to really get a gauge. But when we did see him,
it's all right.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. I just hope that they've got more in the tank than what they showed. And of course, again, like it's the preseason, it's a short preseason. You're not going to give away all your best stuff in the preseason regardless.
That's right.
But it's tough.
Is the game against the Argos in Edmonton, Jim?
Sure is.
Yeah, friend. So I mean, you're right. I think it is a big statement game for Stephen Giles. Like he's got to go out there and do his thing, especially with Ricky Ray in town. So yeah, that's going to be really interesting, and hopefully we see something out of him.
Oh, yes. I hope so, too, because we need that.
No, we definitely need that. Absolutely. How about one of our favorite stories here on 15 Minutes of Fame, Jim, the bounty program in the NFL? There were some interesting developments that happened this week.
Yeah, the players had their appeals last Monday. Jonathan Vilma stormed out, claiming he couldn't get a fair process with Roger Goodell being the, quote, judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
And that's kind of fair. I mean, the guy suspends you, so who do you appeal to? Him? Oh,
wow.
It doesn't really. But CBS reporter Mike Freeman summed it up best with this tweet after the league presented some of its evidence to the media. He said, pardon my language here, but please, I'm quoting, please. Dumbass Saints kept bounty info on computer system.
Yeah.
So apparently they have some actual legit sounds pretty damning evidence, but there's even question about that. Like I think the NFL didn't share all of its evidence with the players and with the NFLPA, so they claim to have heaps of evidence, but then they only showed a part of it. And it seems like quite a complicated little situation they've got going over there, but lots of drama.
Absolutely.
Lots of drama.
Something we're going to keep an eye on here because we love it. Mm-hmm. Over to soccer now. Euro 2012 is really getting on now, Jim, and an interesting result in the final game of the group stages for the Ukraine. They had a clear goal taken away because the refs had to make a quick judgment call. Of course, they got it wrong, but the fallout was really interesting.
Yeah, the president of FIFA came out and said goal line technology is a necessity in the wake of that misplay. The chief refereeing officer of the UEFA and of the tournament agreed afterwards that it should have been a goal, but there's nothing they can do. Just kind of, and they've even got this extra ref just standing there on the goal line. See him?
Yeah.
See him right here?
I see him.
Just standing.
There he is. Yeah. No,
just standing on the goal line, kind of just straddling the line and watching.
Yeah.
That's as close as they've got to goal line technology. But in a situation like that, where in and out, that's not how you solve the problem.
No.
So it's funny to watch because he actually just stands there. That's his job. He just stands there on the goal line and just. So when there's no action there, he's just kind of standing like
watching the game.
Yeah, and they kept showing him on camera after that play, and he just had a blank look like he went, and then it was back out, just like that. I don't know.
Well, it's absolutely insane to believe that they can't use technology to solve this problem.
And while we're watching play go on and the goal not being counted, they're showing you a replay. They have the camera above the goal line.
That's right. The camera's there.
Like it, and they slow it down. They bring it up big. They've got all the infrastructure. They just don't want to use it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's dumb.
I think it's absolutely insane. No kidding. And finally, in the rundown here to boxing, where the WBO conducted its review of the Manny Pacquiao-Timothy Bradley fight like we told you they were going to. What happened there, Jim?
Surprise, surprise. The panel of judges who weren't named but are international judges with credibility.
Sure they are.
They rewatched the fight. They gave Pac-Man the unanimous decision. So rematch, I guess, maybe? The official result stays. But maybe a rematch? Or maybe after this they say, oh, well, we're not going to have a rematch because I won. Except that it's the same promoter promoting both guys, so probably a rematch.
And $5 million more in HBO, in pay-per-views. So,
yeah,
good on them. It's a good business model. I like that. Let's move on to the GABBYs now, folks. These are the good and bad by you. Let's give a good to the Miami Heat and King James, LeBron, for finally getting that title. Good for him. I say they came up short last year, but it's interesting. Everybody really only talks about LeBron coming up short last year. Yeah. But they absolutely powered past a strong OK City team. I mean, the last game was just absolutely unbelievable. They just rolled over OK City. James answered his critics, coming up with a clutch triple-double performance in the deciding game and got the MVP to boot. It was a tour de force by the big three, but especially James. The score did not accurately reflect how badly OK City got beat, I think, in that last game. So good for King James.
Yeah, you know what I noticed about Oak City is that they'd come charging back and then miss about 10 shots in a row.
Yeah, that's right.
Like they'd be right there, then they'd just start missing shots.
Yeah.
I was hoping they'd make it a little more interesting, but I mean, all the haters, against LeBron James, really against the Heat for doing what they did with the three, the big three and all that. At least we can finally talk about more important things like the size of headband that LeBron James wears.
There you go. Now you're talking.
But now he's got a ring.
That's right.
A good to Pittsburgh Penguins star Evgeni Malkin, who won the Hart Trophy, Ted Lindsay Award, obviously the Art Ross as well. Also this summer, World Championship MVP in the spring, rather. But, not a big deal. He's a pretty good player. Hopefully he can have a bit of a better season next year. But
yeah, hopefully he can pick it up. I know.
It's a lot of hardware.
Well, being the best player in the entire world at the current moment is really hard, Jim. I mean, you just got to put up with all that. It's got to be tough.
Man.
How about a good to New York Mets pitcher R.A. Dickey, who became the first player since 1988 to record back-to-back one-hitters that put him at 11-1 on the season, which is absolutely outrageous, absolutely fantastic. Good for him.
Yeah, one-hitter. So that's like almost. If you put those two together, that's pretty much a perfect game, right? Or like a 0.5 perfect game.
I think that's how they should do it.
I mean, what? And obviously, what's forgotten about performances like that is that he's got a whole bunch of guys playing defense behind him, so it's really a team thing. But man, to go out there and do what he's done,
it's amazing,
back to back, buy a lottery ticket, man.
Absolutely.
That's not that he needs it, but
no.
On to the bad side this week. Let's give a bad to David Nalbandian.
Nice work.
He was fined an odd amount of money, $12,560.22, and disqualified from the Queen's Club final for kicking an advertising board, which then hit a line judge and cut his shin wide open. One of those things you do out of anger and immediately regret, punching a wall, where you're so angry. I broke the wall and my hand.
I'm not happy.
Fix both of those things, but I have to still pretend that I'm cool.
Because
he's kind of walking around like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. $12,560. What an interesting amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird.
It must be translated from another type of currency and just seems weird to us.
Exactly. There it is.
You've been fined $7.23.
How about a bad to Danish striker Nicklas Bendtner, who was fined almost $130,000 during Euro 2012 for showing off some boxer shorts that displayed the name of a rival advertiser. Can you believe that? He was rocking some Paddy Power shorts, which didn't sit well with the big boys. He said they were just his lucky boxers. How can you fine or get mad at a guy for wearing his lucky boxers? Come on.
because they guaranteed were not his lucky boxers. He was probably paid more than $130,000 to wear them. But it's just funny that like racism and stuff is about the same amount as wearing rival advertising.
I love it. That's great. Makes me so happy.
Let's give a bad to Tampa Bay's reliever Joel Peralta. He's been banned 8 games for getting caught with pine tar in his glove last Tuesday. What's interesting, though, is a former coach called for the inspection, obviously knowing what the deal was. Nationals manager Davey Johnson said he thought being ejected from the game was enough punishment, but I guess not, bud.
Yeah,
it's
interesting.
Kind of a
former coach.
Not a good move. It's
a little exactly.
But hey,
well, pine tar by now. Like, come on, like you're gonna get caught. But whatever. I got no.
They probably all do it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the punchline this week, Jim, we go back to LeBron James, who was trolled by some pro and semi-pro hockey players this week.
Yeah, poor guy got a cramp during Game 4 and really made a meal of it, like 4-course meal. Didn't sit well with some hockey players. Taylor Hall tweeted, "So much flopping going on, wondering what these b-ball players would do if they got a skate in the face," which he, of course, did have.
He would know.
And just kind of went, oh, man. Let's see. Anaheim's Nick Bonino said, "We get it, LeBron. It doesn't hurt when you're running around, but it looks unbearable when the cameras are close during the timeouts."
Awesome.
The best, though, Scott Valentine of the AHL. "Oh, my God, guys. LeBron has a cramp. Everyone get on their feet. Standing off for somehow staying in the game. If LeBron somehow manages to pull off winning a ring after fighting through a thigh cramp, it'll be a story I tell my children's children."
It's true. It's true. Nothing beats
sarcasm
hockey,
is beautiful there.
I love it. Nothing beats hockey. Those guys are tough. Love
tough as nails.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that's our 15 Minutes of Fame up for this week. Join us again next week when we get a whole new 15 Minutes of Fame. In the meantime, I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
Have a week, folks. Have a week.
Have a week.